Hey you guys, it's your girl AJ the Glamour Witch, and I'm back for another video. So today's video is going to be a topic that I have not touched on in any of my videos previous, and we're going to be talking about domination and control workings in magic and spell work. Now, many of us would think that we are not interested in work like this. It usually has a negative connotation around it, and most people find themselves trying to unravel themselves from the domination and control of someone else. But I'm going to help you explore some of the many different ways that domination and control work can actually benefit you, and not in the ways that you might be automatically assuming. So if you're interested in learning more, just keep watching. Oh, wait, she's magic. Flip a whole vibe, make it better. Handing out blessings. So let's jump in. Domination and control has been used for a very long time in spiritual practices. It is something that most minorities and oppressed people use as a way to move and bend things into their favor. Now, you can dominate and control an individual using certain methods and techniques based off of whatever it is that your spiritual path is, magically, whatever the case may be. Every single magical path has some type of a variation of that. And if we're really thinking about domination control and in terms of bending the will or pushing things in your favor, you're pretty much doing that whenever you do magic. You are bending and controlling the will of nature to push things forward in the direction that you would want them to go, whether you're manifesting money or love or success or more clientele. You're moving yourself from one path or one destiny to another. You're shaping reality, right? You're bending it to your personal intention and your personal will. So by all intents and purposes, you practice domination and control work right now in your magical practice, even if you don't call it that, even if you don't necessarily participate in things that are targeted towards an individual. But I want to say this because I think people get really nervous and afraid of domination and control work, not because it's some spooky, scary, awful thing, but they're more nervous about the backlash that will happen to them as a result of doing a domination control working on someone else. Now, again, if you're Wiccan, then you probably believe in the threefold law, and that's totally fine. But again, if you are doing a spell where you are trying to attempt to get a job opportunity, right? You're doing a spell to increase your chances of being seen. Maybe you're blessing your resume. Maybe you're, enchanting yourself when you go into the interview. Maybe you're, tugging at the, interviewer's energy to choose you, right? Maybe you take the business card that they give you at the end of the interview and you do a spell over it so that you can be a part of this organization, whatever the case may be, right? You're doing control work, right? You're doing a form of domination and control work, right? So this is maybe a lighter or a less aggressive approach, but you are still bending things to your favor. You're still trying to influence somebody to do something that maybe they weren't going to do. You have no idea. Maybe there was somebody else that they were thinking of prior to you coming in, but because you used magic, you bend it in your favor, and for whatever reason, they chose you. They can't explain it, they don't know what it is, but they feel like they can't not choose you because something is pushing them to make you their new employee. Domination control, plain and simply, right? If you're trying to get someone to move out of your life, out of your space, away from you as a form of protection, this is domination and control, right? You are pushing them to do something that they may not have already intended on doing. Even if your intention is not to harm them in any way, again, people love to do with good of all and harm to none. If that's what you feel like you need to do to make yourself feel better about it, that's fine. But you are still doing domination and control. There's no way around it. And I'm not saying this to make you scared or to make fun of you or to put you down, but I'm just saying we oftentimes think that we are avoiding some of the nastier things, I guess, that we see in magic or spellcraft by taking this love and light, white magic approach when really white magic is just a layer of all of the other things, right? It's just another avenue of a intention that is similar, right? People will do certain things and try certain things to achieve a goal. Now, white or light magic, which I think is, again, not a term that I personally would use, but I know some people understand what that means. It is a racially charged term, white magic, and black magic, as one being good and the other being bad or dark or evil. But I want to bring attention to those two things because really magic is magic. It has no one color or two. It's neutral, right? Because it's subjective to the individual. What I think is good may be bad to you. What you think is bad, maybe, whatever, vice versa, right? So what I'm saying is that no matter how you spin it, the magic itself isn't bad or dark or evil. It's the individual's intended outcome that really matters. And now, again, even if you believe you're doing something that is inherently good, you could be doing something that could have a negative impact on someone else, right? Again, going back into the analogy about the job interview. If somebody else was meant to have that job, maybe they were more qualified than you, maybe they would have been a better fit. You taking them out of the running or taking away their opportunity because you knew magic is a form of manipulation. But that's what we are. We're magicians. We manipulate energy. We bend things to our will. It's the power that we wield. We use our divine birthright, which is to wield magic and to use our own personal magic to create the reality that we desire. We are co-creators, right? And so I want you to, when I go into this work, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because I want you to really ask yourself where some of these beliefs come from. Because a lot of times it comes from the religious dogma that many of us try to cycle out of when stepping into magic, spell work, witchcraft, whatever the case may be, spirituality, new age spirituality, whatever the case may be. We are trying to purge ourselves of these things, and yet we put ourselves back into this box of good and bad, right? We're only doing things that are good, only doing things that are love and light. We're only doing things that, uplift. And the truth of the matter is, again, because we live in a subjective reality and the perception of what you're viewing and what you're seeing is going to be much different than what another person is seeing. Someone may see your love and light energy as spiritual bypassing and a bullshit excuse for not taking responsibility for the current reality that they live in, to come out of that and to participate in the real world, or to not recognize people's suffering and put a love and light sticker on it, and they may see you as a problematic individual, although you personally may have the full intention of being a positive influence in the world around you and uplifting other people with that positivity, right? It's the perception. And it may not cross over the way that you think it will, and it doesn't mean that you're not also still harming somebody through this modality. The same way somebody who maybe dabbles in more of the baneful elements of the working, people may see that person as, again, somebody who's more wicked, more, nefarious, somebody who's more dubious, somebody who's really cutthroat and ready to, come get a motherfucker, right? Like, point blank period, they ready to fight. But that person may actually be a very sweet, loving individual. And because they understand the balance of power and the dynamic shift between somebody whose power was taken from them because of somebody else's choice or decision to use their power in a oppressive or an abusive way, this individual uses their baneful magic as a way to rebalance the scales and set someone else free. So while you're saying we shouldn't be cursing people, we shouldn't be hexing people, we shouldn't be doing all these things, you have no idea the positive repercussions of those workings. You see what I'm saying? So before we deem anything or demonize any type of working, we need to see that everything has multiple angles, multiple views, multiple perceptions, and everything can be used as a magical tool. And if you're creative enough, if you have a good imagination, you can find new and inventive ways to be able to transform what it is that these workings can do for your personal life. So we're going to jump right in and talk about domination. I'm going to share with you a recipe for a domination and control powder. It's very neutral, and neutral means that you can use it for love, money, success, whatever the case may be. But first, before we get into that, I'm going to give you a couple of categories for domination control, okay? So the first one is money domination. So money domination is exactly what it sounds like. It's another form of money magic. It allows you to be in total and full control of your financial well-being. Now, there are 3 separate ways of using money domination. The first one is to receive, right? If somebody owes you money and for whatever reason they are not paying the piper, you can use money domination as a way to pull that money from them and get what you are owed. Now, this is, again, a form of control. It's shifting them from whatever it is that has stopped them from prioritizing you, from getting you your money. It also, if there is something blocking them personally from being able to do it, it clears the blockage so that the money can come, and then it makes it in their forefront mind to make sure that you are the first person to get paid, right? They don't go and use the money on something else or over here. They feel as though the most urgent thing that they need to be focused on is getting you that money. So in that way, it can be really helpful, right? Especially if you lent somebody some money or something was owed, reimbursement or whatever the case may be, and maybe that person didn't have the intention of ever paying you back, and you really truly did need that money back. You can use money domination as a tool to bring it back to you. Now, there are many different types of money domination workings. I'm not going to get into that in this video here today, but I can share a few with you if you're interested in that. The second type of money domination is to increase. If you want to increase the amount that you are already getting, if you are receiving an amount and you want to pull forth more funds than you had originally been asking for or had originally intended to receive, you can pull that forth and dominate the outcome of being able to have more financial abundance than you had originally started with, right? So this can come in handy if there is a settlement, if there's some type of an agreement or a business dealing, and let's say you wanted a certain amount of money and you want to increase that amount of money. Here we are using money domination to do that exact working, okay? And the last one is to plain and simply control somebody who is actually in a position of power, who has something to do with your finances, right? Any person that may have something to do with your financial well-being is somebody that you want to keep a close eye on, right? It can serve as almost a protection of your finances. So this is something along the lines of making sure that the people who are in charge of your banking information, taxes, or whatever the case may be, that you have a tight rein on the types of people, that they're not embezzling or doing any funny stuff with whatever it is that is going on with your money. People who are doing your contracts, lawyers, your boss, right? Boss fix is one of the probably most notable types of money domination, right? This is a person who is in charge of your financial well-being in terms of your employment. So these 3 elements are really, really powerful in allowing you to achieve what it is that you want in your financial success. Now, you can actually find a lot of different ways to use money domination, not just in the ways that I have just stated. So let's say you don't actually work for a company. Let's say that you have your own business. The money domination can come in handy in terms of being able to have a control on your finances, what's coming in and what's going out, right? No unexpected expenses, no, money being suddenly taken out all of a sudden of your bank account when you really need it. That's happened to many of us. We find out that we forgot to take that subscription off, and then as soon as we need the money, it's gone just as quick because we forgot to cancel it again for another month. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And in this economic climate, we ain't got time for that, okay? So again, money domination actually can provide a lot more support than I think people realize. And it might actually be another layer of money magic that you hadn't explored that could take your money magic to the next level. The next way that you can use domination is through the use of self-mastery. Now, most people don't recognize domination and control as something that you can do on yourself, but I think that's one of the most powerful ways to use domination and control outside of controlling and manipulating someone else to do what you want them to do. Now, when I say self-mastery, I mean every type of thing that you struggle with discipline, focus, dedication, and consistency in. Right? If you know that you would like to dedicate yourself more readily and empower yourself to take action towards a specific goal that you're setting. So example of this is maybe you're starting a fitness journey and you know that you struggle with consistency and dedication, right? You really want to make this goal happen this year, or you really want to, put away this, kind of lazy half-ass attitude that you kind of have had in the past towards working out and exercising and eating healthy. You can use domination and control work as a way to get mastery and control over your own personal blockages and your own personal, weaknesses when it comes to your fitness goals. Now, you need to know what those things are. You need to have enough self-awareness to know where you're directing the magic, not just to say this general thing of like I dominate and control my laziness. You can say something like that, but if you know your focus is I become bored easily with my workout routine, and then that's the kind of the main reason why I stopped doing it. I have a issue where I start looking at my phone or going on, TikTok and scrolling endlessly, or my devices, and it distracts me from what I'm doing. It works better when you're specific about the exact thing that you're trying to control and get under control. So again, if you have a habit of, let's say you have a really bad habit of talking negative about yourself, one of the first things, and I think people always assume like, okay, well, I'm just going to put I stopped talking negative about myself, period, done, right? I'm never going to talk negative about myself ever again, which I think you could put that intention and you may have some success with it. But I think a better approach is if you're not aware of when it's happening and when it's starting to snowball, because I don't think that having negative thoughts or even negative feelings are bad. Because they're saying something, they're making a request of you, right? Your feelings are making a request, but they're not statements of facts about you, right? They're just asking for your attention. If you can learn how to be present with the thought without allowing it to destroy you, or without allowing it to snowball into something else, you can get an actual control over your negative thinking. Because it doesn't mean you're never going to have negative thoughts ever again for the rest of your life. It just means that you're never going to have negative thoughts that take you out of your power to the point where you don't even want to do what you came here to do, right? And that's really the true goal, right? When you can have a negative thought pass through your mind and it just passes through. That's more powerful than trying to eradicate it completely. Because even for me, I'm a very confident person. I'm someone who operates in a lot of power, and I have plenty of moments on my own where I have negative thought patterns, or I feel a certain way, or I'm feeling down on myself, or whatever the case may be. it's not about me never having a negative thought about myself. It's about me coming back to remember, okay, that was a moment. What is this telling me? Why am I feeling like this right now? Is there something going on internally? Is there something that I need to do? Am I hungry? Have I gone outside? Is there something that I could be doing right now that I'm not doing, and that's why this negative thought is coming up? Whatever that is, I go there first instead of cycling into all the many different reasons why I suck that day, So having a domination and control or a self-mastery working for certain things of that nature can actually really improve your personal journey in spirituality. You can use that domination control as a form of shadow work to kind of improve upon the work that you're doing. Now, again, this is not about bypassing past the actual work, but if you're going to do magic anyways, you might as well do it in tandem with everything else that you're doing, like therapy or talking or exercising or going outside or whatever the many ways that you're personally using in your self-care practice. You can also use domination and control to enhance your abilities, right? You can use this work to really empower yourself and to be seen as someone deserving of respect in a space, right? To come through as an authority figure and to be able to lead, right? And to have that control in a space, in a room, in an environment, to embolden yourself and have personal power so that whatever it is that you're doing is seen as highly respectable, right? So this is a really powerful way to use it. If you're a public speaker, if you're a leader, if you're a boss, if you are a performer, if you're somebody who has to engage with other people or direct other people, a self-mastery or a domination control, ritual is beneficial in that area, right? It can really allow you to shine through and get other people to fall in line with the things that need to be done as it is according to whatever type of job title that you may have. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, I personally love this specific type of way to use this work because it's so versatile and there's so many different ways that you can kind of flip it and turn it into something beneficial to you. You can add a little bit of this work to pretty much anything that you're going to be using in terms of like maybe you're learning a new skill, you're learning how to, read tarot and you want to be more dedicated to it. Maybe you're trying to learn a new language, whatever that may be. If you know personally that this is going to take a level of discipline and dedication from you, you can use domination and control to get you on the right track. The next way of using domination and control is healing. Now, this is interesting because healing is something that I think people aren't assuming you need to dominate or control. But if you think about it, if you even think about like the medical terms that people use, like getting a cold or a fever under control, or I got my illness under control, these things can be really, really beneficial, these types of workings, to get certain things that are maybe spiraling out of control into control. So you can use this in your health. We did talk about this a little bit in self-mastery in terms of like exercising and eating right and doing those things in terms of your personal health. But in terms of healing, if something has already kind of been underway and you don't want it to extend past a certain level where it cannot be fixed or it can, have some negative repercussions, you can use domination and control as a way to kind of reel it back in and bring that healing, right? You can add a domination and control element into a healing working so that whatever the actual issue is, it doesn't go left or right or increase in its ability to cause damage, and that the healing work that it has done next, usually you'll do this as a separate working, the healing work that is done is able to really land and penetrate to the heart of the issue without having to deal with it expanding into something greater. So this is how it can benefit you in terms of healing. The next way is protection. Now this sounds like exactly what it is, protection, right? You're using domination and control to protect yourself. And we talked about this at the beginning. I said, if you have somebody around you who is toxic and, causing a lot of damage or problems, maybe they're abusive, maybe they, have these outbursts, maybe they're doing something that is just literally just not is not helping the situation. They're bringing chaos and confusion. You can use it as a way to protect yourself from that person, especially if talking to them about it isn't working anymore, right? That's really, really when it starts to become like, all right, I've already tried talking to you about it. I've already tried sitting down. I've tried all the traditional things that you do before you start to use magic, which I highly suggest that you do the things you can do without magic before you use magic. But if you're not, let's say you're just not in the mood, like maybe you pull cards and motherfucker, and you just know like, okay, this fool is not somebody who's gonna change. Like they do this to everybody, or they intimidate people, or they try to, whatever the case may be, because there's gonna be different situations for different people. This can provide a really powerful protection, right? Especially if you know that somebody could have the potential to do something unsavory, something very dangerous that could negatively impact other people. You can provide a little domination and control over space if you feel like there are entities or spirits who you would like to have a little bit more control in the space, right? You can use it in that way as a form of protection for yourself. Or if you want to just add a little bit of domination control into things like your wards or into protection workings for your home, that the people that come in here are under your control and under your command. So they do what you say. If you say get the fuck out, they get the fuck out. If you say clean your fucking dish, they clean their fucking dish. If you say don't fucking yell at me, they don't fucking yell at you. If you say don't go into this room, they don't go into the room, right? If you say I'm not having guests over today, they don't show up at your house. They don't feel comfortable enough, right, to come to your house because you've warded yourself and you've warded your space, that even if they drove up, they'd be like, you know what, she did tell me not to come, or they did say not to come, but I would be careful with that, because if you ever actually do need someone's help and you're just like really bad at asking for help, don't do that to yourself. But again, if something happens where you need that extra layer of protection, domination and control can provide that protection for you. And then of course, the way that we all know and love, which is just purely to control and to bend the will of an individual that you want to do what you want them to do, right? In terms of I want to actually go back again to protection in terms of what it is basically binding. You're basically binding the person, right? And I guess to a certain degree, and when we're talking about just traditional domination and control, you're technically binding the person, right? You're binding them up from being able to go left or right. But binding magic is very specific, and also something that you just want to be 100% certain. You don't want to bind someone to you. You don't want to bind them in a way that it could negatively, backfire on you. And you don't want to bind them if whatever it is going to really hurt them. And, unless that's what your intention is. I mean, again, I'm not here trying to be the moral police. You guys already know. If you're watching my stuff, if you've been following me for a long time, I am not the moral police. I'm here to give education. And, it's like you go to the store and you buy kitchen knives. It doesn't mean that you're going to use it to stab somebody, but it is a dangerous object, right? We hope you're using it to cut up a delicious meal to cook for yourself and maybe people that you care about, but you could also be using it for a weapon. You know what I mean? It's you're the person who is the danger, right? It's not the magic in and of itself. So when I say this, I'm not saying this to make you feel one way or another. It's your job to have your own morals and ethics. Me personally, if I'm doing a binding on somebody, it's got to be for a damn good reason. If I have to do magic on anybody, it has to be for a damn good reason. There has to be a very potent, powerful pull for me to go out of my way to do magic on anybody that's not myself, right? Or a client. So think about it in that way. But if you got time today, hey, more power to you. I think too, when we're talking about domination and control, we also have to consider that there are a couple different levels to it, right? And when we're talking about levels, I think we also can get into the ingredients that you would use, right? If you just want a supportive or a soft result, that kind of nudges a person in that direction, it's like a, come on, let's go, move in this direction. Then you might want to start with some lighter types of ingredients, or it's a lighter type of working, right? You're not doing something aggressive. Maybe you are actually making a demand. You are saying, this is what needs to happen. I need you to do this, this, and this, right? We're not asking, we're demanding, correct? And so that feels less like a little gentle, like, come this way, and a go over here now vibe, right? And then there is the forceful energy, right? Which is, we're forcing a result to happen. There is no, I'm not talking to you about it. I'm not asking you politely or ushering you. I'm picking you up and putting you where I want you to go, with or without your, permission, right? And I mean, I guess I say that, but like all of it is technically with or without their permission. But the force is more about bypassing the possibility for that individual to say, well, no, or I'm not interested. You're literally just taking whatever it is that they're doing and you're placing them over here. We're picking you up, arms and legs and everything, and we're putting you in the back of the van. We're driving away, right? Sounds horrible, but that's the best analogy that I could come up with. Oh my gosh, please God, like, let's not have people out here putting people in vans. What I'm saying is that there are layers to the domination, and you want to decide what situation calls for what. You don't want to go over the top with something because you really want it. You have to examine the situation of what it actually is. And if what it actually isn't something that requires a forceful result, then you need to measure that out, okay? Because a forceful result may lead to a more damaging backlash. You may get what you want, but other things may fall apart, right? If you want to do a demanding, maybe you want to do a demanding result, but then you actually needed to do a forceful result because this wasn't enough, right? Or maybe a gentler request was required because maybe the person was already kind of in that mindset, right? They were already going to be amenable to you. Now, again, if you want to do a power and authority working on yourself, like I said before, as a way of showing up, right, to be respected in a space, that could almost be enough to get someone to do what you want them to do, depending on the relationship that you have with that person and how easy it is for that person's energy to be kind of controlled and manipulated. Some people have leaky auras. Some people are more easy to manipulate, and they're more malleable, right? And just more gullible in life in general. That's just how things go. Unfortunately, we've all been there. I've been a sucker once or twice, okay? There ain't no shame in the game. You learn, right? And you grow. But the point that I'm making is know what fits the situation. And the best way to do that is by pulling divination, really assessing what's going on and the individuals who are going to be impacted. And I think something else that's really beneficial if you're going to be using divination is to not only look at the situation like, does it need a more forceful push, light, medium, heavy, or also you want to look at how will each one of these things trickle out? What will have the best outcome on the back end, where people then move on with their lives in a way that doesn't feel, or they don't feel and look back at that situation like, oh my God, right? And it comes back to bite you, maybe in terms of that person realizes that they really didn't want to do that and the magic has worn off and now they're looking at you for revenge, whatever the case may be. You just want to make sure you're not overdoing it, or if there's other avenues, right? Maybe domination control is not the thing you need to do. Maybe it's sweetening, maybe it's something else, So just, I say this to preface that you don't want to drop a bomb when all you needed was like a lovely incense to, waft in the space, to change people's energy, right? I mean, there's a much bigger difference from a bomb blowing everything away than somebody just kind of being like, hey guys, and you being like, oh, it smells good in here. Wow, I feel so relaxed. Wow. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'm down. Wow, I love it in here. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Use your noggin, okay? Use your motherfucking noggin. And now you can't say that I didn't give you all the tea. I gave you all the tea and I gave you some tricks on how to figure it out. I think it also goes without saying that you need to make sure that whatever type of binding work or domination work has some type of fail-safe where you can break the illusion if you need to. Now let's say, okay, so let's go into the other ways that there's one more way actually that I did not speak about, and I think there's a reason why I didn't speak about it. I think it kind of falls into just the ordinary ways that we dominate and control, but I think it goes without saying that I have to talk about people who use domination and control in love spells. I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to be one of those people, but I'm about to be auntie right now, okay? I'm about to be auntie. I'm just thinking about like if my niece was, practicing magic and she was like, there's this guy that I really like we're talking, but I really like, he's like talking to this other girl, but me and him have a connection. Like, I really just want him to, or, I want him to ask me to dance. Listen, that's a very simplified version, but I'll say this. If you're using domination and control in love magic, you have to think about two major factors. There might be three, but two that I can think of right now. One is, do you really want control over this person in a way that would later make you think about yourself as somebody who cannot attract people purely off of your powerful and positive energy and glow and beauty? Do you really want to have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, okay, I have this person in my control, but I don't know if they really do love me, because I know what I did behind the scenes to get them to do what it is that they're doing now. That feeling sucks. And ultimately, it will lead you to questioning whether or not you even want to be in the relationship. Now, I know that that's easy to say when, you don't have somebody who you feel so deeply about, especially if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're watching this video being like, okay, well, I'm going to use this as a way to get my man back. And I feel like there's a very specific reason why this part came last. I feel like Spirit wanted me to harp on everything else, because there's going to be somebody who watches this video to use it for love, and I need you to hear that. Because oftentimes, and I've done this in my personal life, so I can attest to this, oftentimes we do domination and control work in a love relationship, and we find that people act differently when under the influence of love spells and under the influence of domination work in tandem with love spells. You see a different side of a person. Now, I'm not sitting here saying not to do love magic, okay? That's not what I'm saying. I think love spells are great. I think love spells can be amazing if you're already in a relationship and you want to increase passion, sexual energy, chemistry, more openness and communication. You want to strengthen your bond. I think that there's nothing wrong with doing magic on your relationship that's already a relationship. But when you're doing it to get somebody to love you who is showing signs that they do not, you think that getting them is going to make you feel better because you feel like you're losing some control the more that they pull away from you. But you're really not going to feel better at all. You're going to feel worse. And as time progresses, you're going to have to stay consistent with the work, because you have to remember that it's not a one and done ritual. You're going to have to keep doing that work to keep that person under your control. Because if you skip one ritual, one week, or whatever the case may be, whatever the ritual is, if you skip and the magic fades and they figure it out and they finally come back into terms with it, it's going to be much harder to do the same type of magic that you've been doing, because now you're working with their awakened energy and their it's like their devotion to figuring out what's going on and what that feeling is. They may still go along with it, but there's going to be this, because they got a chance to kind of see through the fog for a second, they're going to be thinking about that thing. So you have to keep them in the dark for a long time. And I say this cautiously because there's somebody out there who probably is still going to do it. But you're going to see what I'm talking about. And then when the person snaps out of it, you are target number 1. Hopefully they don't find out that you're doing magic on them. But the bigger issue is when a person realizes that they actually like who you really are, the repulsive nature, because they're backtracking now every minute that they spend kissing, hugging, loving, spending time with you when they really didn't want to. And what that does to a person's psyche and how they act. You have to be careful. You have to be careful. Listen to what I'm saying. Now, if you have a cheating partner, again, I'm not encouraging, but I'm just saying I understand why you would want to do a domination control working. But you also want to ask yourself, like, what's the end goal here? Why am I doing the domination control work? It might be so you don't get no STDs or that he's not out here having babies with other women. But you could focus on that. You could focus a ritual specifically on that. If it's just to keep around a lame ass motherfucking dude or partner, period, because you don't want to be alone, you need to check that. That's a self-love issue. That's an unhealed part of you, and that no amount of domination or control is ever going to fix that. And now the other part of it, the part that I think we all need to perk up our ears, put our listening ears on, and pay attention to. Domination and control can create obsession in your target that, because obsession magic, obsession work is domination work, can make a motherfucker go crazy and do crazy stuff that you would have to call the police on them for. And that's just not the move. So you need to be very, very careful about using it in love workings. Because if a person is violent, maybe you don't even know that they have a violent side to them. That's not the way you want to find out. That is not the way you want to find out that the person that you've done a spell on to dominate and control them has this part of them that would lock you in the house and not let you out because they're afraid that you're going to go out there and be with somebody else. And I'm not talking from personal experience, but I am just saying I have seen some of my friends who are witches do certain things and it backfire to the point where people are punching holes in walls and their spirit is disturbed because they want to be, it's not something that you want to do a science experiment with. But again, if you're going to be one of those motherfuckers who's going to do it, then you can't say you have not been warned. You have been supremely warned that using it in love magic can have extremely adverse effects that sometimes you just don't want to play with. Now, again, I'm getting a headache thinking about it. The other way you might want to use domination and control work in love workings or in lust workings is if you are a sex worker. Now, if you are a sex worker, Domination and Control Powder is perfect. If you are into femdom, if you are doing things like selling pictures of your feet or doing any type of domination work, like dom work, it's dom submissive fetish BDSM work, then Domination and Control Powder can be very, very powerful in terms of your business, right? It's another form of, I guess, money magic because it's allowing you to be even more powerful in terms of working with your clients. So in that way, it can be beneficial, but only if your type of work requires eliciting lust energy from people. But again, you got to be careful, because if you have a day where you don't want to deal with it and that person is like, you've got them under some type of spell, they might do something to satiate their hunger that you've created in them. So be careful. Be careful how you're doing it. Be careful how you word it, because that shit will come back. It will come back. Think about all the avenues. When you write that petition paper, think about all the avenues. Don't get solidified on the first or the second or the third petition right out. Really think about how it can manifest, because you don't want to look back and be like, yo, that manifested exactly what I wrote, but I wasn't thinking it was going to become this mess that I am now currently in. And I want you to be safe, okay? Auntie AJ wants you to be safe. Okay, so the final part of this is I just want to give you guys a little recipe. I haven't done like a recipe video in a while, so I wanted to give you guys a recipe on how to make a domination and control powder. Now, this is the powder, and I am going to share that with you, go step by step of all the ingredients in here. I do put this in a coffee grinder so that way it can be a fine powder. You can sprinkle this powder onto candles. You can add it onto petition papers. You can add it into spell jars. You can sprinkle this on the ground under your carpets. You can put a little bit in your shoe. You can add this to an oil and make a domination and control oil that you can anoint yourself with or other items with. There's a lot of different ways to use powders in general. So if you have maybe you have like a little mojo bag or a sachet, you want to pour a little bit of the powder in there with other ingredients, petition papers, crystals, other curio items as well. You can use this in so many different ways. And this specific ingredient or this recipe is versatile for male and female. It is a neutral powder, meaning that it can be used for many different types of things, and it's effective enough to use for many different types of things. And there's elements in here of every level to support a full working, right? So it has the mild, medium, and hot, basically, elements in here. I will say, because there are some more heavier stuff in here, just be certain with this. You can take certain things out. I will make sure to list in the ingredients list which one of the items is the heavy hitters, so you know if you want to take something out or reduce something. You can do that too, but I would just make the whole batch, and then again, you can set the intention over what it is that you want to do. But then if you have it all together, then you don't have to worry about having 3 separate different types of domination and control powders. You have everything in here, right? Of course, you can always go out there and find out different types of herbs that kind of match your intention and make your own powder. But this one is the one that works for me, and this one's really, really effective for so many different things. So yeah. Let's move on to that part of the video.
Black excellence, it isn't mine. The ancestors gave it to me, that's right. The ancestors gave it to me, that's right. She's a Renaissance woman. Won't let nobody take her magic shit. She's a Renaissance woman. You know she's not afraid to take.
Alright, you guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. Again, I would love to hear your feedback down below in the comments section. Just let me know what you think about the discussion at the beginning. Are you planning on making the powder yourself? And if you haven't really been interested in domination control prior to this video, how are you feeling about it now? I would love to hear from you. Either way, I will see you in my next video. Be blessed.
Pull out the candles, pull out the crystal.